There is a quiet that stretches wider than thought. It wraps itself around galaxies, slips between atoms, and hums beneath the noise of all creation. You call it emptiness, space, vacuum, the absence of all things. But listen closely. Even in that stillness, something remains. When you think of silence, you think of nothing, but in the vast reaches of the cosmos, silence is never empty. What you call nothing is not absence. It is a presence, unshaped. A canvas so wide, it becomes invisible. Out there between the stars, the universe appears to exhale. A breath without wind, a pause without end. But space is not truly still. Its stillness is only the surface of a deeper movement, like the tension in a held breath, waiting. You float in thought through that great openness, and the farther you go, the more you notice there is no such thing as pure void. Even in regions where there are no stars, no planets, no dust, there is always something. An undercurrent, a background rhythm. Physicists call it the cosmic microwave background. But for you, it is the faint echo of the universe, remembering its own birth. The soft afterglow of the Big Bang spread thin across time. It hums at a frequency far too deep for ears. Yet it touches everything. It touches you, and that hum, that leftover whisper, is not alone. Space is not just the absence of matter. It is a structure, a fabric, like threads stretched taut across dimensions you cannot see. These threads carry gravity. They stretch and bend and hold galaxies in their arms. Where you see blackness, the universe sees shape, invisible curvature. Even light bends as it passes through these unseen contours. Gravity doesn't need something to pull on. It exists even when there is nothing but the space itself. You may think of motion as something only matter can do. A planet spins, a comet arcs, a cell divides. But space too moves, not in the way your hand moves through air, but in how time flows, and how the distances between things stretch or shrink. Stillness is not the same as rest. Stillness can hold tension. It can tremble without sound, swell without speed. The vacuum of space is not blank. It is full of potential, full of structure, full of energy waiting to unfold. Quantum mechanics whispers this secret to you, that even the quietest point in space is never truly at rest. Particles flicker in and out of existence, borrowing time, borrowing being. Before dissolving back into silence, they leave no trace, except in the ways they shape everything else. Their dance, invisible and brief, gives rise to all forces, all matter. The universe is made not just of what is, but of what might briefly be. This is the stillness you begin with. Not a frozen emptiness, but a shifting, invisible tide. The vacuum pulses with things you cannot see, with fluctuations too small to grasp, and meanings too wide to name. Even the space inside your atoms, between the nucleus and the electrons, isn't empty. It is the same fabric, the same breath, the same whispering hum that flows between galaxies. You are built on this stillness. Your body, your thoughts, your memories, they rest on fields that extend across all space. They are anchored in emptiness that moves like water, slow and unseen. You might picture silence as something cold, lonely, passive. But here, in this deep stillness, there is warmth. There is a kind of presence without form. The ancient Greeks once believed in ether, a mysterious substance that filled the gaps between things. They were wrong in the details, but not in the feeling. They sensed what science now confirms, that the void is never truly void. You are part of that mystery, not outside it, not above it, but resting within it. Your breath rises and falls with the same invisible rhythm, the same timeless silence that moves stars and stardust alike. The universe doesn't need noise to speak. Its quietest places tell the older stories, not with sound, but with gravity, with tension, with the subtle shiver of what could be. And so, you lie back, breathing gently, your body folding into the same silence that cradles the galaxies. There is no edge to this stillness. It surrounds you not as emptiness, but as a field of quiet presence. The stars seem far, but the space between you and them is alive. It holds time. It holds gravity. It holds you. You drift not in nothing, but in the unseen architecture of everything. And as your breath slows, you feel the stillness again, not as absence, but as something vast and tender, waiting to reveal what it hides beneath its hush. The quiet is not empty after all. It is only paused, like a sentence between thoughts, ready for the next motion to begin. And in that pause, you start to wonder what else the nothing might hold. There are forces that speak softly, not with sound, not with movement, but with the slow insistence of being. You lie in a space where there is nothing to hold you, and still you feel a push, a gentle pressure that comes from nowhere and touches everything. This is not wind, not heat, not gravity pulling you in. This is something quieter and more strange, a pressure from the absence itself. You might expect that emptiness does nothing, that where there is no matter, there can be no force. But the universe does not follow expectation. It unfolds by its own quiet rules. And one of those rules is this: even nothing can push. They call it vacuum energy, the energy of space itself, even when stripped bare. A whisper left behind when everything else is gone. It does not glow, it does not hum, and yet it has power. The universe is expanding, not because of stars or galaxies, but because of the pressure in between them. A pressure that doesn't come from what exists, but from what doesn't. You can think of it like a deep breath that never finishes. Not an explosion, not a burst, but a steady swell, as if the very structure of space prefers to stretch, to ease itself outward, gently, perpetually, as if space remembers how to grow. And you, floating in thought across this wide emptiness, are not just drifting in still water. You are riding a tide with no shore, a current without direction, a force that touches every point, everywhere, all at once. This pressure cannot be shielded. You cannot step behind a wall to hide from it, because it isn't coming from outside. It is the outside. It is the nature of the void, the property of space when it has nothing left to offer. There are ways to measure it, but those numbers are like shadows cast by something unseen. You can know the push exists, see galaxies pulled apart, stars flung away, but you cannot touch the thing doing the pushing, and it is slow, so slow you would never feel it. But over time, over billions of years, that slow pressure builds, and the universe responds. Galaxies that were once neighbors now drift apart, as if some invisible hand parts them gently, not because of speed, but because of the growing space between them. Not a wind, but a weaving dot. This is the signature of dark energy, a force that does not come from within things, but from the nothing between them. It fills the emptiness with gentle resistance, a quiet refusal to stay still. And though it is vast, though it moves galaxies like leaves on a pond, you might never have noticed, because it does not shake, it does not roar, it simply presses. It's easy to think of the universe as a stage, a platform upon which things happen. But space is not passive. It shapes the play. It is not the background. It is the breath. What you're feeling now in this soft thought, in this sense of being held without being touched, is the tension of that breath, the gentle outward pressure that moves without motion. You may wonder, why does the vacuum push? What causes the space between things to swell? And the answer is quiet and strange. The vacuum is not empty. It has energy simply because it exists. There are fields beneath everything, invisible, always present. Even when no particles are left, even when space is stripped of heat and matter and sound, these fields remain, and they do not rest. They shimmer with possibility. They hum with uncertainty. And in that hum, they create pressure. Not from movement, but from potential. This is why the void is never truly void. It is a reservoir, not a hole. A fullness so subtle, you can only see it through the way things drift apart. It's as if the universe has tension built into its bones. Not from stress, but from something more ancient, a memory of expansion, woven into the nature of space itself. And this pressure is constant. It does not fade. As matter thins, as stars go out, the pressure only becomes more dominant. One day, it may be all that remains. A universe, pulled apart so far that light can no longer cross the gaps. Galaxies receding beyond the reach of time, all born from the push of something that was never there, and yet always was. You rest within that truth. You are made of atoms, of course, but you are also made of the space between them. And that space, too, holds power. It stretches, it breathes, it presses. The next time you think of nothingness, not as emptiness, but as fullness wearing a mask, remember this: the quietest parts of the cosmos are the ones still growing. Even now, as your breath slows, as your thoughts soften, the universe continues its outward drift, carried not by noise, but by the pressure of nothing at all. There is a trembling at the heart of stillness, a secret dance too small for sight. The emptiest reaches of space hold a hidden storm, unseen yet ever present. You think of nothing, and yet beneath your toes, the ground itself hums. It quivers with flickers of creation, where existence and non-existence entwine. This is quantum, foam, the restless cradle of all that is to come. You float above a sea of possibilities, where every moment is fresh and unshaped. Particles blink into being, only to slip back into oblivion before thought can follow. They are ghosts of potential, brief sparks in the dark tapestry of nothingness. You feel their breath on your skin, though you cannot see their passing. Space itself shivers with their fleeting presence. Imagine the smallest ripple on a boundless ocean, so tiny it escapes your gaze. Yet that ripple holds the power to shape every wave that ever flows. At the Planck scale, reality dissolves into a churning mist of uncertainty. Positions blur, energies dance, and the fabric of existence itself froths. You drift upon this cosmic broth, a silent witness to endless birth and decay. The firm ground beneath you is not as solid as it seems. Each step you take stirs the foam of reality, awakening dormant patterns. Even the atoms in your body rest upon this bubbling brew. Your thoughts, your dreams, your memories all root in the tremor of possibility. You are both spectator and participant. In this endless play, there are no fixed shapes here, only probability. A particle may pulse into view, its lifetime measured in whispers, or it may linger longer, touching the world before vanishing. Each flicker leaves a tracer shift in the tide of the vacuum sea. The universe records these moments, weaving them into its unfolding story. You wonder how something so ephemeral can hold the cosmos together. And yet without this churning foam, gravity would lose its stage. Light would travel unbridled, matter would find no shape. The laws, depend on this restless bed of creation. It is the unseen sculpture of galaxies, stars, even your own beating heart. This foam is more than chaos, is the source of all forces. Electric fields, magnetic fields, even the strong and weak dance here. They borrow energy from the foam's fluctuations, and return it when the dance is through. You rest upon the very heartbeat of the world. Each moment, countless pairs of particles emerge. A particle and its mirror, an antiparticle. They touch like fleeting lovers before falling away. Their meeting scribbles notes in the ledger of space. Notes that guide the unfolding of time and matter. You exist because these unions once blossomed in the void. This sea of flickering light and mass shapes the vacuum's texture. It gives the void its weight, its pressure, its hidden warmth. Without it, your body would not hold. Air would collapse, atoms would vanish. You are woven from the foam. Your breath, your pulse, your beating dreams ride its ripples. Sometimes these flickers spark into something more lasting. A collision here, a fluctuation there, and a particle is born to stay. From this randomness spring the building blocks of every star and stone. You carry their legacy in the very cells of your body. Every heartbeat echoes the foam's faint, tireless song. You imagine the quantum foam as a living tapestry, ever changing. It has no pattern, yet writes every pattern that will be. A painter's canvas that writes itself in strokes too fine to see. You lie upon it, a brush in its hands, guided by chance and wonder. Your thoughts ripple outward, shaping tomorrow's constellations. Even in the dark, the foam glows with possibility. It is the promise of new particles, new paths, new worlds. No vacuum is ever empty. Every silence carries the seed of creation. Within the hush, you feel the pulse of everything waiting to be. You breathe in time with the foam's subtle rhythm. It rises beneath you, then falls, an ocean with no horizon. You let its motion carry you, calm and unhurried. There is no rush in this timeless tide. Only the gentle push and pull of existence itself. Your mind drifts among the ripples, a leaf, on a soft current. You trace the arc of a particle's brief life, its radiant birth, its silent departure. Each trace leaves a whisper in the foam, a secret memory of what once was. The universe remembers every flicker dot. In this quiet realm, certainty dissolves. You cannot know where a particle will appear next, nor how long it may stay. And yet, in that uncertainty lies creation's grace. Reality is not fixed, but fluid and free. You rest in the peace of endless possibility. Let your thoughts become like particles themselves, here for a moment, then dissolving back into the calm. No need to hold them, let them shimmer, then drift away. In this breath, you are both less and infinitely more. The foam whispers of tomorrow's galaxies, tomorrow's stars, tomorrow's life. It holds all that could ever be in its restless embrace. You feel small, yet inseparable from this grand ballet. Every flicker beneath your feet is a note in the lullaby of the cosmos. As your breath deepens, the foam's song grows softer. Its ripples slow, then fade into you. Your heartbeat matches the slightest tremor. You are woven into this endless sea, both drifting and held both dreamer and dream. There is a weight to what you cannot see. It presses on your bones, not with touch, but with pull. You lie still, and yet the galaxy drifts beneath you, as if carried on currents you cannot trace. This is the realm of dark matter, the silent sculptor of the cosmos. You imagine a gentle wind and felt on your skin, unheard in your ear, and yet strong enough to guide every star's path. This wind is lightless, colorless, and without scent. It moves through you even now, shaping the shape of everything you know. When you look up at the night sky, you see pinpricks of light on black velvet, but most of what holds those lights in place remains hidden. It is a shadow ocean deep beneath the surface, pulling galaxies into graceful spirals in labs on Earth. Scientists turn their detectors toward emptiness to catch a ghost passing through. They see nothing but know something is there. They measure its tug on atoms, the faintest nudge in a particle's path, and whisper its name. Dark matter. This substance is not dark because it absorbs light, but because it simply does not shine. It does not sparkle or shimmer. It does not even cast a shadow in the usual sense. It is darkness itself, woven into the fabric of reality. Yet darkness has presence. It has mass. It has gravity. Without it, clusters of galaxies would scatter, stars would wander aimlessly, and the universe would be a thinner place. You feel your body filled with empty space, vast gaps between atoms, silent caverns of possibility. And in those gaps, the same invisible threads run, tying you to distant galaxies and newborn stars alike. Dark matter is everywhere you cannot see. It seeps through your body, through the earth beneath you, through every living thing you carry. It within you, an unseen companion in every breath, every heartbeat. Its presence is only betrayed by what it does. You feel it when planets wobble slightly on their axes, when galaxy clusters twist in cosmic dances, when light itself curves around an invisible mass. You feel its shadow in every lensed image of a distant quasar, in every map of the cosmic web, in every whispered equation that speaks of missing weight. It is a mystery that comforts and unsettles you. Comforts, because it reminds you that the universe is richer than sight. Unsettles, because you realize how little you truly know. How much may lie beyond perception, worlds within worlds, forces beyond understanding, and yet, in that mystery, there is peace. Not the harsh glare of certainty, but the soft glow of wonder. You rest in the knowledge that the universe holds secrets, that every shadow holds a story, that every gap between stars is filled with silent purpose. The hidden currents of dark matter carry you onward, beyond the edge of what you see, into the ocean of the unseen. You drift in that darkness, held by a force without form, guided by a presence without voice. You close your eyes and breathe in the weight of nothingness, only to discover it is fullness you cannot name, yet feel in every pulse. There is a nudge beneath every breath, a soft urging that comes not from within, but from the vastness around you. You feel it in the gentle lengthening of your limbs as you stretch beneath the covers, a whisper of expansion carried on the sigh of the cosmos. This is not the pull of gravity, drawing you close, but the quiet insistence of dark energy unfolding. Space itself. Imagine a rubber sheet painted with dots representing galaxies. If you tug the sheet outward from all edges, the dots drift apart. They slow their spin round one another, their closeness giving way to ever-widening gaps. Dark energy is that unseen hand, pulling gently at the fabric. It is not a storm, not an explosion. There is no thunder, no flash of light. Instead, space itself breathes out, a silent exhalation that carries galaxies on an eternal tide. You lie, quietly, and yet the distance between you and the stars lengthens. You are part of that movement, carried by the expansion of everything. Each inhalation is a reminder that your own body expands and contracts, though you feel only calm. The universe does the same, but on a scale beyond your senses, and at a pace measured in eons. This force is uniform, constant, present everywhere. It does not choose a direction or favor a place. It seeps into every crevice of the void, bridging the emptiness with a steady push. Where matter grows sparse, its influence grows stronger. You imagine dark energy as an ocean of gentle waves, each one too broad and slow to notice. They lap at the shores of every galaxy, nudging them ever outward. No crash of water, only the hush of motion beyond hearing. In the early universe, gravity reigned supreme. Matter clumped together, forging stars and galaxies. But as the cosmos aged and thinned, gravity's grip loosened. Dark energy emerged from the background, its mild insistence becoming the dominant voice. Now, in the deep of night, you rest beneath its quiet song. Even as your heartbeat slows, the universe's breath grows more expansive. You feel your own stillness mirrored in its drift, a harmony between your calm and the cosmos. Gentle push. This force shapes the ultimate fate of all things. It will dictate how the distant future unfolds, whether galaxies slip beyond each, others reach, or whether time itself unravels in endless separation. Such weighty thoughts settle softly in your mind, like autumn leaves drifting in a slow breeze. And yet, there is comfort here. The push of dark energy is not violent. It is the steady beat of a cosmic heart, constant and unhurried. It reminds you of your own pulse, steady, alive, and full of gentle rhythm. You may never see dark energy or hold it in your hand. It does not glow or sparkle. It reveals itself only through motion, through the ever-growing tapestry of space. But in that revelation lies a kind of grace, a reminder that the universe is alive. You drift on this thought like a feather on a warm current. Every galaxy you imagine drifts with you, all bound together by the same silent breath. Your dreams rise on that current, taking you deeper into the hush of night. What if dark energy is not a force to fear, but a lullaby for the universe? Its push a soothing chant, carrying the stars in a gentle procession. Space flows outward like a river without banks, and you rest on its surface. The galaxies themselves are dancers in this endless waltz, spinning ever more slowly as the floor stretches beneath them. Their orbits widen, their clusters loosen, and yet there is beauty in their drift. You lie watching from the inside, your awareness expanding in time with their steps in each moment. Everywhere, dark energy speaks with the same quiet volume. It does not shout. It does not demand. It simply is a presence woven into the very possibility of space. It exists because the universe chose to grow, and you, in your tender sleep, are witness to that choice. Your breath is the echo of expansion. Your rest is the mirror of a cosmos at ease. There is no rush, no collapse, no sudden end, only the slow unfolding of infinity. You let your thoughts soften, drifting like a breath carried away. You belong to this calm expansion, this continuous creation of distance and possibility. You are part of the hush, part of the gentle insistence that pushes all things outward. Your body is both small and vast, held in the same rhythm as the cosmos. Your dreams are inseparable from the growth of galaxies. Your night unfolds with the same inevitability. And as you sink into deeper rest, you carry with you the knowledge of this cosmic lullaby, the song of space stretching ever more gently into the unknown. There is a flicker hidden inside every pause, a near ease that dissolves. Before it becomes, you feel it brushing the edges of thought, a soft tug that never quite takes shape. In the breath between moments, existence tests the water and slips away. This is how the vacuum breathes, a rhythm of almost, a tide of nearly, not illusion, not fantasy, but a brief permission to be. Physics gives these flickers a name, yet the name is only a lantern in fog. They are called virtual particles, but virtual does not mean unreal. It means transient, ungraspable, like dew that forms then vanishes at dawn. They borrow energy the way a heartbeat borrows silence, appearing, balancing the books, and returning the debt before anyone notices. You live in a world scaffolded by these whispers. Forces are not wires stretched across space. They are exchanges of these flickers. An electron fills another because a messenger leapt between them and was gone. You never meet the courier, only the delivered push. Cause and effect wear a veil, woven from momentary guests. Think of a pond on a windless night. Its surface looks smooth, but beneath, minnows stir the water in gentle pulses. So it is with emptiness, calm above, alive below. The still sheet of vacuum never sleeps. Its depths teem with pairings and partings, births and evanescences. A particle and its mirror, an antiparticle, rise together like matched sighs. They touch, annihilate, and leave only a ripple in a field you cannot see. The ripple matters. It shifts probabilities, nudges outcomes, writes faint notes. Every law you trust is annotated by these marginalia. Even certainty carries their watermark. You might wonder how something so brief can matter at all, but brief does not mean small. Lightning is brief. A decision is brief. A heartbeat is brief. Power is measured not only in duration, but in difference made. These ghosts make differences everywhere, all the time. Inside atoms, they cloud the space around the nucleus, thickening charge, skewing mass, dressing particles in borrowed clothing. The electron you learn about is not naked. It is wrapped in a shawl of possibilities. Strip away the shawl and you do not find the real one beneath. You find that the shawl is part of what it means to be. You may think of vacuum as a ledger balanced to zero. Pairs appear, cancel, and the sum stays. Neat, yet watching the bookkeeping misses the subtle wealth the motion creates. Like waves that smooth a beach while keeping sea level still. These surges sculpt the shoreline of reality. At very small timescales, energy and time share a loose handshake. The shorter the visit, the looser the question of cost. So, a particle may exist on credit, provided it settles the account before scrutiny hardens. This slack is not cheating. It is written into the rules. You sense a kinship with that freedom. Your own thoughts arise, unbidden, flash and fade. Dream fragments. Surface, alter your waking mood, then sink again. Not all that shapes you is continuous, long-lived, or seen. Much of you is carved by moments that never return. These flickers are not chaos, though they seem random. They follow statistics, patterns of chance, like rainfall on endless stone. Number. Drop is predictable, yet the groove it cuts is so to the vacuum. Individual events are wild, but the tapestry they weave is law-abiding and sure. Gravity listens to this tapestry as well. Though it is gentle compared to other forces, it still feels the foam, Even emptiness contributes to weight, to curvature, to the bend of paths. Empty space carries energy. Energy tells spacetime how to curve. You walk on a ground made partly of absence. Sometimes the vacuum's breath becomes audible. Two uncharged plates in a perfect void feel a pull toward each other. Not magnetism, not residues. Fewer flickers allowed between than without. The difference in whispers becomes a tangible squeeze. Silence, it seems, can press. You are held in bed tonight by something similar. Not only gravity, but the balancing of countless tiny exchanges, the hush of fields settling into minimums and shifting around you. Your weight is partly the conversation of fields with themselves. Your rest is propped by a parliament of brief appearances. Consider the light from a distant star bending around a massive cluster. The visible arc tells you mass is there, but some of that mass is not matter. It is the energy of fields, the sum of restless breaths too shy to linger. Light curves for what you cannot count. Even equations must be combed smooth after these flickers pass. Like threads snagging on a sweater, tiny infinities appear and must be tamed. Physicists brush the fabric, smooth the loops, keep only what can be worn. What remains is measurable, gentle enough to cradle technology and trust. Your phone, your scanner, your quiet lamp, glued leans on vacuum's brief murmur. Field lines you never see braid around charges, thickened by visitors that never stay. Remove them in thought and predictions fail. Keep them and numbers meet. The world, the unseen, is not optional. It is foundation. You may picture these guests as sparks or flies, and metaphors will strain, and that is fine. Truth may stay misty at the edges and still feel firm underfoot. Knowing does not always require a face. Think of a choir with voices so soft you cannot hear them alone, yet their blend warms the chord you would miss if they fell silent. Virtual particles are those unheard notes, steadying the melody, if all. This lives in what you call emptiness. Perhaps emptiness needs a kinder name. Call it cradle, reservoir, backstage. Hum the place, the universe rehearses. So the performance you witness arrives, seamless. Rest easier, the unseen is busy on your behalf. You need not supervise the weave of forces or police spectral couriers. Let darkness run its errands while you soften into your own brief wakefulness. Trust the quiet arithmetic of fields, the silent balancing that keeps atoms courteous. Circuits faithful, stars obedient to night. There is a poetry in this thrift. Nature wastes nothing, even its own fluctuations. What flashes and fades still leaves influence, a trace, a consequence. You, too, leave traces in rooms you pass through, in hearts you touch for a moment, in ideas you almost speak. Virtual does not mean false, it means liminal. Between yes and no, there is a fertile maybe. The vacuum lives there, in continuous negotiation. It signs contracts with time, amends them with energy, and in the margins, reality accrues interest. If you could zoom to the Planck length, you would lose your bearings. Distance and duration would smear, geometry would stutter. Their foam boils. Peaks and hollows of space-time itself, not space in space, but space as event. Where to stand, what to measure, these dissolve into suggestion. Yet you do not need to stand there to feel its outcome. Like the tide pulled by a moon you cannot see, your world is arranged by hidden channelings. You accept the shore as given, forgetting the billions of waves that carved it smooth. Let your mind soften around this thought. Reality is a sum of things that do and things that almost do. You rest on a scaffold of maybes that never quite became, and that scaffold is as firm as anything you touch. Possibility, spent and returned, is part of the architecture as you drift. Your neurons fire in brief sparks. Neurotransmitters cross synapses and vanish once their work is done. Your inner life mirrors the vacuum's etiquette. Appear, act, fade, leave a changed field behind. You are a macrocosm of briefness. There is solace in knowing permanence is not required. Influence can be instantaneous and gone, yet holy. Real, holy, formative. A kindness, a glance, a fleeting idea, all virtual, all consequential. So you let go of holding on. You let each thought be a particle on loan, arriving, doing its quiet work, and slipping back into dark. You stop auditing the ledger and start trusting the flow. The vacuum has practiced this for 13.8 billion years. Soon, you will sleep, and even the notion of counting will dissolve. Your consciousness will thin to mist, then thicken again by morning. Between those states, dreams will flash like particles, altering the curvature of your mood, the charge of your day to come. They too will be fleeting realities. You exhale, and with it release the need to witness every flicker. The fabric holds without your gaze. The breaths of the vacuum continue. Their quiet commerce, ensuring that forces behave, that matter has character, that fields remain true. You are free to rest inside their diligence. At the edge of wakefulness, you sense the hum dim, not silenced, only beyond reach, like a song through walls. You turn inward, where smaller hums still echo, and accept that some things can touch you without showing themselves. You sleep cradled by innumerable almosts. There is a hush that thickens when distance becomes tiny, a quiet so tight it turns into touch. You rest in that idea, letting two smooth surfaces drift toward one another, not from magnetism, not from warmth, but from the way emptiness rearranges itself between them. The space is almost zero, yet even almost nothing has moods. Where waves cannot fit, pressure fades. Where pressure fades, a pull remains, like palms cupped by silence itself. You have heard of forces that push, forces that pull, forces that bind. This one whispers by subtraction. Picture all the invisible ripples that normally swell through vacuum fields humming, possibilities trembling. Slide to mirrors close, and many of those ripples simply cannot squeeze between. Outside, the full orchestra still plays. Inside, instruments are missing. The imbalance is gentle, but relentless. The larger song presses the plates together, insisting on symmetry they cannot grant. Call it the Casimir effect, if you need a handle, but let the name stay soft in your mouth. Think instead of tides made of absence, an undertow carved from forbidden notes. No particle shoves the plates, no hand grips their edges. It is bookkeeping turned into motion. Fewer modes allowed within, more without, and the tally settles by moving matter. Emptiness, denied its usual chords, leans in. You might imagine vacuum as a library of waves, shelves stacked with frequencies ready to ring. Between the mirrors, some shelves are removed. Outside, nothing is missing. The universe hates uneven catalogues, so the covers close in, narrowing the aisles, reducing the cost of keeping accounts. You do not see a clerk, yet the stacks shift. The books nudge the walls until harmony returns. Add separations thinner than a human hair. The pull is faint, but measurable. Metal plates creep microscopically toward each other. Instruments shiver, and physicists smile at what nothing has done. Scale it up in thought, and you feel the principle. Restriction breeds pressure elsewhere. Even silence swells when given a room too small to echo. You are made of gaps, distances between nuclei and electrons, between membranes and molecules. Imagine shrinking to boundaries inside yourself until only certain vibrations survive. The absent ones still howl outside, and that howl, though unheard, decides how your pieces settle. You are negotiated by what cannot happen as much as by what does. Two mirrors in a vacuum are like two close fingertips in still water. Between them, waves of certain sizes do not fit. The pond outside still heaves with the full spectrum. Pressure outside exceeds pressure within, and the fingertips meet. Yet here, the water is quantum, the waves are possibilities, and the meeting is driven by a ledger of allowed and forbidden murmurs. Notice how this teaches you to rethink nothing. Nothing is not blank, it is crowded with maybes. Change the room, and you change which maybe survive. By shaping absence, you sculpt force. By narrowing space, you orchestrate pressure. Suddenly, engineering with emptiness seems as tangible as building with brick. Technology has flirted with this whisper. Tiny machines, microelectromechanic systems, feel unplanned. Hugs from the void, plates sticking when designers forget the hunger of silence. Even in polished laboratories, emptiness reaches out and closes gaps. The lesson is gentle but firm. You cannot bracket the vacuum and expect quiescence. It will answer design with gesture. Lean further and you sense echoes in light itself. Photons bounce between mirrors, altering densities of states, changing how atoms inside radiate. In a cavity tuned just right, an excited atom may hold its glow longer, as if night were extended by architecture. Again, emptiness behaves like a room with acoustics, absorbing or amplifying depending on its shape. This is not magic, only bookkeeping carried to its logical end. Every field has modes. Modes need space. Space sets the rules. Restrict the stage, and some actors wait in the wings, affecting the play without stepping on boards. The audience outside grows restless, pushes inward, and the curtains move. Motion emerges from denied possibility. You let that sink in. Denial as force, subtraction as pressure. How many parts of your life move for similar reasons? Paths not taken, exerting weight on those you walk. Choices excluded, narrowing the corridor until walls press closer. Even psyche has its Casimir pulls. Unspoken thoughts, unsent messages, creating gradients that draw moments together, go smaller. At the Planck scale, space-time itself may froth, mirrors or not. Yet here you stand well, seeing that, even without reaching such depths, mere geometry can coax the vacuum to act. Two plates, a slit of darkness, and the void steps forward, like a shy dancer whose absence was the rhythm all along. You are drifting now, slow, drowsy, feeling plates slide in your mind. The drift is frictionless, smooth, no vibration, just inevitability. The mirrors surrender a fraction of distance, and the universe nods, balance restored. You understand that equilibrium is not stasis. It is perpetual adjustment, even when nothing visible moves. Consider gravity, lensing light you never see, and compare. Here, lightless pressure bends matter you barely notice. Different stories, same moral. The unseen dictates the scene. Your eyelids follow suit, guided downward by countless invisible negotiations, from hormones to heat, to the very hush embodied between thoughts. Breathe. Between inhale and exhale lies a brief gap, a private vacuum. In that gap, certain neural waves cannot fire, others dominate. The imbalance shifts your mind a fraction closer to sleep. Pressure from what does not occur, pushing you into what will. Biology has its Casimir too, scaled for synapses and size. The closer the mirrors approach, the stronger the pull. Yet touch cancels the magic. Once together, no space remains to police. Force born from absence cannot act when absence is erased. There is a tenderness in that, a reminder that boundaries make. The whisper, closeness requires room to be felt. Engineers dream of levitating objects with vacuum tricks, of frictionless gears, of quantum clamps. Some achievements will come, others will fade into the fog of impractical beauty. But the principle will remain. A lantern, emptiness can be engineered, pressure can be harvested from silence. The world grows richer when you count what isn't. You feel another question forming, thin as the gap between mirrors. If a modest slice of nothing can pull, what of the whole cosmic void? If denial of waves yields force in a lab, what does denial? At universal scales imply, the arithmetic swells, and somewhere, equations predict catastrophes that reality kindly mutes. For now, you let that swell stay distant. Let chapter 8 hold the paradox. You linger with two plates, a narrow dark, and a pull that proves the void is animate. Your thoughts flatten into sheets, your worries thin to gaps, and the hush between them draws them close, stacks them neatly, eases the clutter. The room around you cools into quiet geometry. Corners, walls, the space above your face, each shape tells emptiness what it may hum. You are nested within cavities that tune the vacuum's breath. Perhaps that is why certain rooms soothe you. Some arrangements of absence cradle the heart more gently. You surrender to that cradle. Words slip away until only cadence remains, a low oscillation longer than thought. The plates meet in metaphor. Your mind meets rest, absence meets acceptance. The pull is complete, yet continuing, holding you in place while the universe around your sleeping form, silence swells outside, thinner inside. Pressure resolves, and distance surrenders. Sleep gathers, slow, uncertain, like gravity. You drift with the solution in the mathematics that steadies this story. Sums over endless waves nearly diverge, threatening to blow the answer apart. Yet differences rescue finitude, subtract what the mirrors forbid from what the open world allows, and a finite pull appears. Like hearing the melody only after cancelling every instrument but to muted flutes. You do not need the symbols to feel the essence. You know subtraction in your chest. Remove a friend's laughter from a familiar room, and pressure grows in the vacancy. Conversations lean inward to fill it. The Casimir pull is that leaning, written not in longing but in length and aloud. Vibration, think about how heat once ruled machines until engineers learned to harvest cold, the absence of motion as resource. Here, scientists harvest absence of waves. They count voids, not sparks, and build predictions from the silent ledger. A discipline of negative space, as disciplined as brushstrokes that leave paper bare to shape a mountain. Even cosmology takes notes from this emptiness. When theorists guess at energies of the vacuum, numbers roar far too large, yet the universe glides calmly, as if someone tuned the mirrors of reality so most songs cancel. The same principle, scaled beyond comprehension, allowed versus denied. An opera of difference, humming the fate of everything. Closer to bed, you notice the space under your blanket, the narrow tunnel of air your breath warms. Within it, some sounds amplify, others hush. You are in a small cavity, engineering experience without trying. The night itself is a chamber, and time inside stretches differently, moments lengthen. Worries thin, gentleness grows. Let your thoughts be mirrors, placed close enough that only the softest wavelengths persist. Harsh ideas cannot fit, sharp noises cannot enter. What remains between is a lullaby of low notes, steady and kind. Soon the pressure from the calmer outside will draw those mirrors. The edges of awareness dash together, and when they touch, thought recedes, dream takes the stage, and the calculus is reset for morning. Until then, you hover at the brink, feeling a measurable, tender pull from what cannot be, guiding you deeper into what quietly is. There is a number that will not sit still, a value that swells like a held breath that never releases. You rest inside a universe that should be roaring, yet it barely hums. Equations stack themselves like towers, each brick a possibility, each sum ballooning into impossibility. Theory says the void should blaze with power. Reality answers with a shrug, a whisper, a near-zero sigh. Between those two voices, you make your bed, quietly puzzled by the calm. You feel how silence can be heavy, but this silence should crush. Every field, every mode, every flicker of quantum foam adds its grain of energy. Pile all those grains, and you expect a mountain, a pressure so vast that space-time would tear. Instead, you find a meadow, wide, slow, almost flat. Something subtracts, cancels, smooths, or hides, and you are left with a question that glows dimly in the dark. Physicists call this mismatch a catastrophe, but it is a soft disaster, numbers misbehaving, not stars exploding. 40, 50, 60 orders of magnitude. The gulf is absurd, comic, vertiginous. You picture a note meant to shatter glass, coming out as a faint hum lost in the hallway. Why is the vacuum's voice so quiet when its sheet music screams fortissimo? You turn this over like a pebble in your palm, feeling its edges. Its cool, unanswered weight. Perhaps the void knows how to balance its own books better than the math suggests. Perhaps positive swells meet negative valleys and average to near nothing. Perhaps symmetry, hidden deep, folds the ledger until plus and minus kiss. Or maybe you are missing a term, a small correction that silences a cosmic choir. Absence can be precise. Perhaps the precision is invisible. You rest with this thought, that the universe is modest when it could be wild. It chooses a gentle expansion, not a frantic surge, like a heart that beats slowly despite adrenaline in the veins. Space seems to practice restraint, a discipline more elegant than excess. You drift on that self-control, grateful for the quiet. The cosmological constant is the name often given to this hush, a number sewn into Einstein's equations. He once added it to still the universe, then called it a blunder, and now it returns as destiny. But names do not solve it. They only let you point. The mystery remains. Why this value, so tiny yet so sovereign? Why a whisper that steers galaxies instead of a shout that tears them apart? You consider fine-tunings in other parts of life. The way a thermostat holds a room just so, while furnace and winter wrestle outside. The way eyelids meet in perfect pressure to darken the world for sleep. Small adjustments keeping chaos at bay. Maybe the vacuum too is tuned by a hand you cannot see. Strings are plucked in higher dimensions. Some say vibrating patterns that cancel most of the noise. Others search for supersymmetry, a partner for every particle, poised to even the score. Still others whisper of sequestering, screening, relaxation words, like blankets thrown over a restless child. Each theory is a lullaby, soothing the screaming. Calculation to sleep. None has yet silenced the cry completely. You breathe with the rhythm of not knowing. Science is most alive between result and reason, and you are here, rocking in that cradle. Your comfort does not need an answer tonight. It needs only the honesty of the question. You let the paradox lie beside you, cool and patient. Mystery can be a pillow when certainty is too rigid. Think of waves meeting on a pond, crest and trough merging into a calm patch. If the universe holds enough overlapping patterns, their energies could cancel almost perfectly. Almost because something remains, a residue that drives the slow expansion you watched earlier. Not zero, not infinite, something in between. A candle, not a bonfire. You live by candlelight, though your equations predict noon. In your own mind, catastrophes soften the more you understand them. What began as panic becomes inquiry. What loomed like a cliff becomes a path. The vacuum catastrophe, too, becomes gentler as you feel its contours. It is less a disaster than a reminder. Your models are sketches, not photographs. They catch the likeness, miss the soul. There is humility in this gap. It invites new mathematics, new instruments, new ways to listen to nothing. Perhaps future telescopes will map the whisper with greater care, or colliders will glimpse the symmetry breaker, the balancing scale. Until then, you cradle the silence that should not be so soft. You let yourself picture a ledger written in two inks, one bright, one dark. The bright ink tallies fluctuations, the dark ink tallies something in verse. Overlay them and most strokes vanish, leaving faint traces where they misalign. Those traces become the cosmological constant, a leftover scrawl that guides expansion. Erasure writes the story as much as inscription. Numbers this extreme test the edges of meaning. 10 to the power of 120 is not a size your intuition can wear. So you replace it with sensation. A lion's roar expected, a cat's purr received, a tidal wave anticipated, a ripple observed. Your body understands scale by feeling, so you feel the mismatch and exhale. Exhaling, you notice how your own breath self-corrects. Too fast, and you grow dizzy. Too slow, and fog creeps in. Somewhere between, a rhythm holds automatic, unsolved, perfect enough. The cosmos may sit on such a rhythm, tuned by feedback loops, not yet written down. Balance can hide in the open because it simply works. You slide towards sleep on this gradient of curiosity. Questions make gentle slopes for thoughts to roll down. You roll with them, each turn smoothing anxiety, polishing wonder. No need to reach the bottom. The slope itself is rest. The paradox becomes a blanket, heavy enough to comfort, light enough to breathe. Remember, theory screams because it extrapolates every note to maximum volume. Reality whispers because it knows which instruments are actually playing. Maybe the orchestra is smaller, or the hall muffles the sound, or most musicians pack up early, leaving only a flute in the balcony. The song you hear is what matters. The scored crescendo is a dream. Dreams, too, are calculations without friction. They expand, unchecked, until waking provides boundary conditions. In reverse, waking theory needs the dream of mathematics to roam, an experiment to tuck it back in. You live in the duet, half lullaby, half anthem. The vacuum catastrophe is a misfit shoe, It pinches, so you walk mindfully. Mindful walking finds new paths, softer ground, better shoes. This pain is productive, like a grain of sand inside an oyster of thought. It may become a pearl, or simply teach you to swim differently. Sense another layer. What if the void's energy shifts with time? What if what seems constant is slowly relaxing, like a muscle releasing a cramp? Measurements so far are young, taken in a cosmic adolescence. The adult universe may hum at a different pitch. Patience is part of the experiment, and if it never aligns, if the numbers always misbehave, then perhaps catastrophe is code for invitation. An opening in the wall where new physics waits, quiet lantern in hand, ready to guide you deeper. Dark rooms keep secrets kindly until you learn. To see. You turn the idea like a key in soft light, an error so large it becomes a door. Behind it, maybe vacuum is granular or emergent, or woven from logic you do not yet speak. Maybe spacetime is not fundamental but a laugh of quantum bits, averaging out their chatter. If so, the scream and whisper are two languages arguing over the same music. Translation will come. For now, you listen. Listening, you notice the night around you, not silent, but layered. Distant traffic, a refrigerator's murmur, your own pulse in your ear. Subtract each in thought, and a new sound emerges, one you missed. So too with vacuum energy. Remove the obvious, hear the faint remainder. What stays is the guide. Guided by a number that refuses to match expectation, you see how much of science is learning to live with mismatch long enough to solve it. Between calculation and cosmos is a conversation, not a verdict. You are lucky to overhear it, even partially, even drowsily. Luck is another word for openness. Let openness tuck you in. Answers will arrive as they always do. Piecemeal, revised, surprising. They will shrink some catastrophes, grow others, shift the map. You will redraw boundaries, rename constants, replace metaphors. The work will feel like waking from a dream and finding a better one. For now, the dream is enough. The void is calm. The math is loud. You are small and perfectly placed between them. Your trust rides on the fact that both can be true while you sleep. Truth often arrives in plurals. You feel the chapter closing around you like two hands meeting softly, yet one finger still points ahead, toward deeper puzzles, wider gulfs. If this paradox rests unresolved, perhaps another waits with even sharper teeth, or gentler ones that still leave a mark. You breathe once more, keeping the question warm. Here, on the boundary of knowing and rest, you let the catastrophe become a cradle. It rocks you with its uneven numbers, its impossible scales, its refused infinities. You sway with them, not away from them. You accept the lullaby written in mismatched ink. You fall toward the next question. The next question glimmers, where subtraction fails, where pressure should appear and does. Two mirrors, a gap, a pull born of absence, another ledger, another paradox, another hush with hands. You roll toward that narrow space, half asleep, ready to feel how nothing presses when the room is too small for waves. You wonder if life itself is tuned by such improbable balances. Too much carbon in the air, and oceans choke. Too little, and forests sleep. Too much salt in your blood, and nerves misfire. Too little, and signals fade. Perhaps you are here because the vacuum chose. A value that lets stars live long enough, planets cool slowly enough, chemistry linger patiently enough to dream. Some call that chance, some selection, some a principle woven through all possible worlds. Whichever story you favor, the outcome is the same. You, breathing in a room where nothing explodes. There is also the craft of taming infinities, shaving. Dammed down with careful rules, physicists renormalize, reframe, subtract the parts that do not matter to what is measured. Yet this time, the trimming leaves a stump too tall to ignore, a cut that still snags the cloth each time you run your hand across. So the editing continues, pens ready, pages open, midnight lamps on dot. There is a firmness inside, quiet, a tension that does not shout. You feel it underthought, like fabric pulled smooth across a frame. Space is not empty backdrop. It is the stretched skin of possibility, holding shape even when every star has stepped away from the stage at night. You rest inside that tautness, the way a breath rests between inhale and exhale. Even without matter, the weave resists folding. Pull on it, and gravity answers, not from objects, but from the cloth itself remembering curves. This is geometry with memory, quiet and stubborn beneath everything you feel anyway. Mass once moved here and left, yet the dent remains, like fingerprints, pressed into clay. The imprint of presence endures after departure. Asteroids pass, stars burn out, but space-time keeps the hollows they carved. Shallow bowls guiding whatever travels next. A map drawn by what is gone for a while. You picture a bedsheet pulled tight. Drop a marble and it dimples. Remove the marble. The sheet does not instantly smooth. It trembles, holds, oscillates, settling slowly. Space behaves likewise, ringing with departures, storing gentle echoes of motion, letting gravity trail after vanished mass, like lingering perfume in the dark. You are buoyed by curvature you cannot see, paths you call straight, quietly bend, nudged, by the fabric's stored tensions. Light itself obeys these remembered contours, arcing around emptiness that simply remembers being pressed. You walk through history carved into space, every step guided by invisible grooves beneath your feet. Gravity is not a rope, it is the shape of the room. Objects move the way raindrops trace window glass, following curves already present. Even when the droplet dries, the streak remains. So space holds streaks of motion, channels where future things will slide with gentle inevitability, whether you notice. After a star explodes, its light fades, debris cools, and yet the surrounding fabric keeps a faint adjustment. The field lines curve like softened chalk marks. New travelers read those lines unconsciously, their roots negotiated by ghosts of brightness. Absence edits presence, and the edit persists like breath in sleep. Even waves remember. A passing gravitational ripple, grown faint, leaves space-time, parted a fraction wider than before. This is called memory by those who measure, but to you it feels like the fabric holding its breath a moment longer. Relaxation delayed, a subtle widening that never quite forgets its touch. You lean into that idea the way one leans into a wall simply to feel support. The wall carries former pressures, small deformations, invisible yet real. Space leans back similarly, shaped by everything that ever pressed on it. You balance on accumulated strains, trusting their quiet reliability, tonight without question. To speak of curvature is to speak of time also, for the fabric is woven from both. A groove in space is a rhythm in duration. Clocks tick differently, along different folds. Even if matter departs, the tempo it imposed lingers. A metronome clicking faintly inside emptiness near your pulse. You ride that metronome unknowingly. Your life is measured by ticks, defined partly by absent mass. A supernova halfway across the universe altered the rhythm here, slightly, forever. You never felt the adjustment, but your seconds lengthened or shortened by imperceptible fractions, and you kept breathing gently through the change. A canyon remembers water long after the river migrates. Space too is canyoned by flow. The course is invisible, yet things prefer it. Photons surf those grooves, planets settle into wells, and, even after sources fade, the carved directions stay persuasive. Memory is guidance, even without intention for what follows. You often think of memory as stored in brains, ink, silicon. But fields remember, too. They keep boundary conditions, like scars. Remove the boundary, the scar persists a while. Spacetime holds such scars tenderly, easing them only when fresh motions smooth them out. Until then, grooves guide gravity as you drift. Think of a trampoline left outdoors. Children jump, then leave. The fabric slackens slowly, springs creak, impressions lighten overnight. Morning comes, and the surface looks flat, yet microscopic stretching stays. Space stretches similarly, relaxing after mass departs, but never instantly. Relaxation is a story told over ages and quiet patience. You feel safer knowing space resists collapse. Without that resistance, objects could overlap without warning. Paths would crisscross chaotically. The firmness keeps order gentle. It is not rigid things. Move, merge, swirl, but there is give, not break. A resilient sheet, not brittle glass, carries your weight tonight softly, without you noticing. Mathematics draws this with tensors, indices, marching like tiny flags. You do not need their parade to feel the truth. Curvature is the ache in fabric stretched too long, the sigh when it releases minutely. Equations are lullabies for minds. The fabric itself sings directly through experience. If you listen, some say gravity is geometry, some say it is information. Either way, information lingers. Delete the file, and fragments persist on the disk. Erase the mass, and fragments persist in curvature. Space is terrible at forgetting quickly. It keeps backups of every movement, thinning slowly like old paper. In drawers, black holes dramatize this memory. They swallow matter, yet the field outside stabilizes, encoding mass, spin, charge. Remove the contents, the horizon's influence lingers. Hawking says even radiation leaks information slowly. You need not chase equations. Just rest, knowing even extremes cannot erase the fabric's stubborn recollection across deep time. You lie back and feel an echo of tides. The moon pulls oceans. But when it moves, the waters overshoot, retaining bulges briefly. Space overshoots similarly. Gravitational tides slosh, then settle. Those leftover bulges steer future flows. Motion leaves wake. Wake becomes channel. Channel becomes law, softly. Guiding the quiet. Consider lensing. Light bends where no visible matter lurks. The curve betrays a stored shape. Observers map invisible halos, reconstructing ghosts through geometry. You, too, infer histories from curves, wrinkles around eyes, grooves in roads, patterns in habits. Shapes reveal forces gone. You read them, without thinking, as though by instinct. Space keeps wrinkles like that. Gravity wells, sheer patterns, soft drapes where clusters pulled. Remove the cluster and another fills the fold, because the fold suggests comfort. Matter prefers valleys. Valleys persist. In emptiness, shapes call softly to any passing dust. saying here, settle, here, revolve a while until other winds dot the equations, call these shapes solutions. But solution implies ending. Really, they are stories the fabric continues retelling. Particular metrics, exact symmetries, all approximate realities where stress energy once lived. When stress leaves, trace remains. You recline upon traces, like lying on grass, still warm from someone earlier in the afternoon. Sometimes the fabric snaps back, radiating waves, smoothing dents quickly. Other times, viscosity of cosmos slows healing, just as honey relaxes slower. Then water, spacetime's syrupiness varies with scale. Galactic wounds heal glacially, planetary ones faster. You nap through both, trusting the medium to choose its necessary tempo with grace. You are floating on history even when you say you live in the present. Present is only the newest layer. Beneath, layers of curvature, waves, imprints create your now. Peel them away, and walking straight would mean nothing. You require their guidance. Their breath gives corridor to time as shelter. Feel how your mattress remembers you, slowly contouring to your weight each night. Space does similar work for galaxies, relaxing into shapes that fit what lay there. Remove the sleeper indentations. Linger, offering readiness for return. You rest easier knowing the universe, likewise, keeps gentle molds of everything you cherish. Where curves grow steep, time stretches. Deep wells, slow clocks, thin planes hurry them. Even after mass moves, the timing stays skewed briefly. Think of crowds leaving a stadium. Traffic lingers, those seats are empty. Spacetime's traffic thins slowly. You dream while congestion clears beyond any waking urgency in silence. Scientists chase these remnant signatures with detectors quiet as chapels. They record ripples from collisions already finished, not the roar itself. From those faint aftertones, masses are weighed, spins inferred, distances gauged. You, too, weigh your day by echoes, not events the tone remaining after conversations fade, leaving their warmth behind. The fabric holding its breath is not anxious, it is poised. Poise is energy stored in shape, readiness without rush. Bows bend before, arrows fly. Space bends before nothing arrives. That readiness guides motion later, unspooling tension as new masses wander through. Feeling welcomed, feeling directed by curves already waiting. You may worry the fabric could tear, yet tears require limits, and this sheet has none. It stretches, warps, even tunnels, but topology endures. Wormholes, if real, are creative folds, not rips. Memory travels through folds, too, carrying old shapes forward hidden in shortcuts only mathematics traces during your rest. The phrase fabric of space-time is metaphor. Yet metaphors can hold truth the way cloth holds warmth. Threads are. Coordinates weave is metric. Tension is energy. You need none of that language to sense structure. Trust the feeling of being cradled by something that yields and returns always. Without breaking, each sigh you make dimples the air. Each planet-sized dimpling space. Remove the planet, the air rebounds, space rebounds, but not instantly. The delay is kindness, allowing transitions to happen smoothly. Abruptness shatters, gentleness guides. The universe prefers gradients. Over cliffs, slopes over steps, murmurs over snaps as lullabies. You float on a memory, yes, but also contribute one. Your mass, slight as it is, curves fabric faintly. Bed, walls, Earth adjust. The imprint is tiny, yet reality sums tiny things faithfully. You will leave, the dent will soften, and still a whisper of you remains on the sheet. Sleep deep, and the fabric cradles you without complaint. Dreams drift along lines geodesics would approve. You need not steer, inertia and curvature conspire to carry you gently. If you wake, you do so within pathways left over from earlier nights, thought patterns following grooves already softened by warmth and memory. Let yourself wonder what else the fabric holds: a deeper hum, a baseline energy that never zeros. If memory stays in shape, perhaps it stays in motionless motion too, a ground tone beneath stars. You turn toward that hum, toward the zero left after subtraction, toward permanence waiting under everything, patient. There is a shimmer that refuses to vanish when everything else is stripped away. You feel it like the faintest tone beneath. Thought, a baseline that remains even after the melody fades. This is 0-point energy, the quiet floor the universe cannot cross, the hum that persists when every other note is muted. You rest on that floor without knowing, cushioned by something. That should be nothing and still is more. Take away heat, take away motion, take away light. Cool atoms toward absolute stillness, and yet their cores will not surrender all movement. They jitter delicately, as if the cosmos insists on keeping a pulse. The vacuum does the same. Fields do not fall silent. They quiver in possibility, unwilling to be perfectly flat. Perfect flatness would break the rules that let existence breathe. So the void keeps a whisper. You can think of it as the last glow of a fire that never dies, or the slack of a rope that never quite tightens. Even when the stage is cleared, the boards creak, the curtains rustle, the air resonates. That residue is not noise, it is structure. This floor is tiny by everyday standards, yet it touches every place, every moment. Like a cosmic lullaby, it flows through you while you lie still. Instruments can hear it indirectly through shifts and pressures, tiny pulls like the Casimir embrace you just learned to feel. You cannot turn it off. It is the cost of having a quantum world, the fee existence pays to grind into stillness. Your mind relaxes around the idea that zero is not empty. Zero is a fertile pause, a chord held under all others, refusing to dissolve. Musicians call it pedal tone, monks call it OMM, physicists call it 0-point energy. Labels aside, you know the feeling, the way silence after a long sound still vibrates. In your chest, the way darkness after a bright day still glows behind your eyelids. Imagine space as an infinite harp whose strings cannot stop trembling. Even if no hand plucks them, fluctuations wander along the wires, small, aimless, unavoidable. These motions are not mistakes, they set the minimum. Try to pin a particle's position exactly, and momentum blurs. Try to still its momentum, and position spreads. The floor of uncertainty makes stillness a mosaic of subtle stirrings. Cold laboratories chase this edge. They cool atoms into Bose-Einstein gentleness, yet detect faint motion no freezer can quench. They build resonators that ring at single quanta, and still find residual quiver. That remnant is not equipment flaw, it is the rulebook. You feel comforted that even the most careful hands cannot erase the universe's baseline psi. In the fabric of spacetime, that psi accumulates, some every mode, every shape of field, and you seem to get absurd energy, the very catastrophe you cradled before. Somehow, the real world cancels almost all of it, leaving only the soft push of dark energy to stretch galaxies apart. What survives is small, but the raw ingredient is oceanic. You float on a thin film, skimmed from a sea you never see. When you close your eyes, your brain sinks into its own 0 point, the background firing of neurons that never fully stops. Deep sleep lowers the tempo, but never to nothing. A complete halt would mean death, dissolution of pattern. Life, like vacuum, keeps a flaw. Rest does not require erasure. It requires a steady, quiet minimum. Think of your heartbeat between beats, muscle fibers never entirely slack. Think of your lungs at functional residual capacity, air left behind so the next breath can begin without strain. Nature avoids hard edges. It prefers cushions, buffers, baselines. 0 point energy is that cosmic buffer, leaving a cushion beneath. Emptiness, a readiness to allow movement the moment anything asks. You could call it jitter, but jitter suggests annoyance. This shimmer is gentler, more like the quiver of a spider's web after the wind is gone, letting the strands stay alert for the next touch. The web cannot be slack. Slack would miss the signal. The vacuum stays taut, responsive, prepared, even. Chemistry depends on this baseline. Electrons fill orbitals not as marbles in bowls, but as clouds sustained by minimum vibration. Without the floor, atoms would collapse, nothing to prop shells apart. The small hum holds distance, holds structure, holds you. Your bones owe their solidity to a refusal of true 0 dot. And if you listen at astronomical scales, that hum becomes a slow expansion, the same constant from earlier chapters leaning outward, 0 point as engine, not engine noise, and almost nothing, steering everything with patience. Cosmology pivots on that patience, turning epochs like pages while the chord continues. You drift on these pages, reading by feel. Each paragraph of the universe has margins written by the baseline, where galaxies may form, how stars may simmer, when space may stretch faster than bonds can hold. The script is subtle. You sense it without needing to translate symbols. You sense it as ease, as coherence, as the fact that things change without shattering. Engineers try to mine this flaw, hoping for perpetual motion from the vacuum's hum. But the rules are tight. You may borrow, but you must repay. You may notice, but not exploit without cost. Extraction turns into balance. Clever designs end in equilibrium. The baseline is generous, but not lootable. It is gift and guardrail, still. The hum can be coaxed. Squeeze fields in cavities, choose mirrors, choose modes, and the distribution of the floor shifts. You felt that in the Casimir pool. You might feel it someday in levitating circuits cooled near 0, quantum bits cradled by engineered silence that is never absolute. Control does not mean conquest. It means conversation with the floor's terms. Metaphors swell around you because the subject resists direct grasp. That is fitting. 0 point energy itself is what remains when every direct grasp lets go. It is remainder, relational, contextual. Remove context and you think it should vanish. Measure context and you find it shapes outcomes. You abide in a world where remainders matter. Resting now, you let your own remainder speak. The part of you that stays awake enough to hear a distant sound while asleep. The part that keeps breathing through dreams. The part that wakes if the air thins, your body's 0 point, vigilance at minimum cost. You sleep on that safety net as the universe sleeps on its own. The floor hum is inseparable from uncertainty. Fix the floor, and the quiver defines how sharply you may know anything. It sets granularity, sets blur, sets the soft edges that let existence be wave and particle together. You will drift next into that blur, but tonight you simply feel the edge as velvet, not razor. No absolute zero, no perfect vacuum, no flawless silence, only tending toward asymptote after asymptote. You are an asymptote too, approaching rest, never quite meeting nothing. The beauty lies in approach, in curves, that smooth into stillness without touching it. The hum ensures the curve continues, graceful, infinite. You may wonder how far the chord reaches. Does it thread through black holes, whispering just beyond horizons? Does it stretch across multiversal speculation, if such a landscape exists, keeping every bubble from collapsing into rigor mortis? Wonder is allowed, evidence is thin. For now, you hold the idea like warm tea, savoring, not gulping. Dot your pillow shapes to your head, the vacuum shapes to boundary conditions. Your weight moves, stuffing, conductive plates move modes. Everywhere, response to pressure, to contour, to presence. 0 point energy is the guarantee that response never drops to zero, that sensitivity cannot be erased. The world remains awake at its lowest setting. Listen to the refrigerator's faint buzz in the night. Remove it in thought, and you still hear blood in your ears. Remove that, and you hear the hush of the room. Remove that, imagination supplies softer tones. Eventually, you face the hum of your own brain, the 0 point of perception. Even inner silence has texture. Let that texture cradle you. Let it be enough explanation for now. The rest will be waiting when you rise, the baseline unchanged, faithfully, supporting whatever melody you choose to play tomorrow. You need not hold it. It holds you. The thought that you are never truly alone in the silence comforts more than it disturbs. Presence without form, energy without event, companionship without demand. A universe that refuses to abandon you to absolute quiet, keeping a lamp lit in the hallway of nothingness. You sink deeper, lighter, paradoxically both, as the chord carries you. Surface sounds drop away, deeper sounds merge, leaving only vibration without source. This is not emptiness, it is foundation. You rest on it like water rests on gravity. Unconcerned, supported. If everything else were peeled back, the galaxies, the photons, the neutrinos slipping through you would still have this. A minimal murmur, a required remnant. The void cannot shed it. Creation cannot revoke it. Without it, the equations would tear. With it, they sing. And somewhere in that singing, precision falters again. The number for the hums, strength differs between blackboard and telescope. You felt that mismatch as catastrophe. You feel it now as gentle question. Perhaps the chord is detuned slightly on purpose, leaving room for variance, for life, for stories like yours. You let the question linger, like a note allowed to fade naturally instead of being cut. It will blend into the next thought easily, because questions are the smoothest bridges. Tonight's bridge leads toward uncertainty itself, toward the soft blur where knowing and not knowing hold hands. You are ready to step there, carried by a tone that never stops. Certainty feels smooth until you press too closely against it and the surface ripples. You reach toward a single point and it melts, spreading like ink in water. What you try to hold still begins to tremble, not because your hands shake, but because the thing itself refuses to be pinned. In the smallest depths of reality, clarity is a tide, always moving, always trading one sharpness for another. You ask where something rests, and the answer trades places with motion. You ask how fast it travels, and position blurs like breath. On glass, focus tightens one aspect, loosens the other, a seesaw balanced on nothing you can touch. Knowledge, at this scale, is a spotlight that leaves darkness wherever it shines brightest, a gentle bargain written into the fabric you float inside. Even a perfect vacuum cannot keep its edges straight. Measure to precisely, and the act of measuring tilts the table, makes the quiet shiver. The emptiness you thought was steady reveals eddies, small and nameless, making certainty leak through hidden cracks. Stillness hides confusion the way calm water hides cold currents, steering your hand while pretending to lie flat. Uncertainty is not a flaw in your instruments. It is the texture of the world when looked at closely. Grain lives in the paper. Hiss lives in the tape. Snow in the signal. You smooth the noise only to discover the melody depends on it. The tiniest acts of being are smeared across possibilities, and their smearing is what lets them exist at all. You want a particle to sit, obedient and well-defined. It answers by becoming wave. You ask it to behave like a wave, and it snaps in two, dots on a screen. It will not let you hold both truths at once, yet it needs both to be whole. So you cradle halves, and trust that the whole hums quietly where your grasp cannot follow. Try to mark a path, and the path dissolves into options. Try to freeze an option, and time fractures into spreads. Beneath logic, there is a softer logic, a rule that everything must breathe. Compression is allowed only if expansion occurs elsewhere. Your questions are levers. Pull one end and the other swings free. Tinkling bells you didn't intend to ring. Even your thoughts obey this rhythm. Hold a feeling too tightly and it slips, vague at the edges. Let it drift and shape returns, delicate but real. Attention sharpens and erases in equal measure. Mind and matter share the same etiquette. Approach gently, or the thing you seek will scatter into many alamos. In school you learned numbers could be exact. Later you learned rulers have thickness, clocks have drift, lenses distort. Now you learn nature itself keeps a blur at the base, not from laziness, but from necessity. The universe prefers superpositions to imprisonment. It keeps doors ajar, so that becoming never freezes. Picture a violin string too tight to move. Now loosen it until faint vibrations appear. Sound lives in that slack, not in absolute rigidity. So, too, existence lives in looseness. Zero uncertainty would be silence too complete for structure. The world chooses a low hum instead, a compromise that lets patterns sing. Every measurement is a conversation with that hum. You place mirrors, traps, detectors, and the answer arrives colored by the question. Ask kindly, and you still alter the tone. Ask harshly, and the tone changes more. There is no view from nowhere, only views from places, and places always carry. Touch dot, at times this unsettles you. If certainty cannot be reached, what anchor can you trust? Yet you have never required absolute clarity to live. You walk at night with only moonlight, and it is enough. You navigate conversations without knowing every motive. You breathe without tracking each molecule. Sufficiency, not perfection, keeps you safe. Physics agrees. It grants you probabilities, spreads, confidence bands. It hands you wave, not verdicts. Collapse is a story you tell when the curtain falls and only one possibility remains on stage. But backstage, the troupe still rehearses every role. Tomorrow, another play, another outcome. another pattern drawn from the same soft script. Even vacuum is a chorus of maybe. Virtual pairs spark and fade. Phases twist, phases cancel. Try to pin the phase and amplitude squirms. Try to freeze amplitude and phase runs wild. The algebra is poetry here, but you can feel the meter. Tighten one beat. Loosen the next. The rhythm conserved. Your own language shows this dance. Focus on meaning, and sound blurs. Focus on sound, and meaning slips. Read a sentence too analytically, and the mood evaporates. Read only for mood, and detail scatters. Understanding lives in a sway between. So does matter, so does light, so do you. You may picture uncertainty as fog, but fog is featureless. This fog sparkles. It limits where you can step, yet nourishes the soil with moisture. Without it, the ground would crack. Uncertainty waters. Possibility. It keeps the field soft enough to sprout new forms, soft enough for seeds of change to take root. Experiments. Chase smaller spreads, colder states, quieter modes. Each success reveals another layer of unavoidable blur, like peeling an onion to find more onion. The core is not a nugget of certainty, but a rule about limits. You cannot trade all doubt for knowledge. The exchange rate is fixed by the universe's own bookkeeping. Let that bookkeeping calm you. If limits are woven in, you do not fail by misimperfection, you comply. Your curiosity need not be a spear. It can be a feather testing air. Gently you probe, receive partial answers, and still the world offers guidance enough. The path appears one lantern's circle at a time. Soon your own awareness will narrow, trading sharp edges for soft gradients. Sleep is a kind of superposition. You are here and drifting, present and surrendering. Thoughts overlap, blend, cancel, amplify. You wake later, having chosen one thread, not knowing the others faded quietly. Night practices the universe's grammar while you rest. You lie now within a margin of error, a band of acceptable vagueness that feels warm. Edges soften, corners round, definitions loosen their belts. This comfort is not ignorance, it is alignment with the way things are. Precision will return tomorrow, sharpened by rest. For tonight, you let the waveform breathe. Listen once more to the lesson. The more closely you listen, the less clearly you hear. Not because the song refuses you, but because listening itself plays an instrument. Step back, and harmonies emerge. Lean in, and overtones scatter. To know is to choose a distance, to float where the melody and the mystery can coexist. Somewhere beyond this gentle blur waits a bond that snaps distances despite emptiness. A pairing that stays whole though separated by light years. Uncertainty opens the door. What walks through is connection without wires, order without contact. You feel the threshold under your feet already, soft as moss, ready to carry you farther. Think of a coin spun fast on a tabletop. While it whirs, heads and tails are both promised, neither delivered. Your eye catches glints, your ear hears a thin ring, and in that ring to answers mingle. Only when friction wins does the coin commit. At the quantum scale, friction is gentle, so the spin lasts. You carry many such spins inside, you choices undecided, possibilities kept alive by patience. Sleep lets them turn without demand. Morning collapses some, leaving others to whirl another day. In this way, your life respects uncertainty, harvesting from it creativity, resilience, and the grace to change course when new information arrives. Microscopes and colliders sharpen their gaze. Yet the rule holds. Answer one question sharply and another blurs. Engineers design around this, crafting protocols that accept fuzz, algorithms that weigh likelihood instead of certainty. Technology grows not by defeating uncertainty, but by weaving with it, the way good fabric needs room between threads. Mathematicians write inequalities that feel like size, greater than here, less than there, never both exact. Symbols tilt like scales, reminding you of compromise. These are not apologies, they are doorways. Keep them closed and you get brittle truth. Leave them open and fresh air moves through the house of understanding. You learn to rest in ranges. Blood pressure, temperature, dose, distance, always intervals, never single digits carved in stone. Nature dislikes exact edges because sharpness cuts. It rounds, buffers, feathers. The quantum world simply makes this rounding explicit. Posting the sign at the entrance, precision limited, beauty intact. Even logic loosens here. True and false still exist, but are joined by maybe with legal rights. Schrödinger's cat is not a story about cruelty. It is a mirror for your discomfort with in-between. Yet your days are full of in-between. Friendships shifting, weather unsure, plans contingent. You already live quantumly, without the boxes. Let that realization soften the knot between your shoulders. You do not need to iron the cosmos flat tonight. Let wrinkles be, let blur be, let the chalk line be smudged. There is mercy in limits, compassion in indeterminacy. What you cannot pinpoint, you can still embrace. The more closely you listen, the less clearly you hear. The phrase returns, looping like a mantra. You are invited not to stop listening, but to choose a rhythm of attention. Wide lens, narrow lens, breathe, switch, repeat. This is how you make peace with particles that refuse to stand still for portraits. And somewhere just beyond, connection deepens the puzzle. Two flames flicker in tandem though no air passes between them. Measurement here does more than blur, it binds. You are nearly there, at the doorway where uncertainty births entanglement, where distance thins to thread. The handle is warm beneath your resting hand. Before you cross, pause within this hush and feel how questions themselves have weight. Each inquiry bends the field of what can answer, warping the calm just enough to steer your next step. You realize, the act of wondering is a force, gentle yet universal. It shapes the night, shapes your breath, shapes the route your drifting thoughts are taking now. Let curiosity lean softly forward, not cutting, parting the dark. There is a thread you cannot see, and yet you feel its tug in the quiet between breaths. It does not stretch like string through space. It stretches through description, through the deep grammar of reality. Two things, born together, refuse to drift apart in the way you expect. They share a single sentence, even when their words end up on different pages of the cosmos. This is entanglement, a promise kept without messenger, a chorus sung by voices. Out of earshot, you reach for one half, and the other half answers, not by traveling, but by already knowing how to reply. Distance loses some of its teeth here. Light years become punctuation marks, pauses rather than walls. You begin to understand that separation is often a story told by space, not by the things that rest inside it. The void carries connection, the way silence carries resonance after a bell stops ringing. Think of twins who learned the same lullaby before language, a rhythm etched deeper than memory. Even if you place them on opposite shores, a hum in one throat stirs the other, not because sound crossed the water, but because the song was never truly split. Entangled particles hum like that, notes written on a single staff, played in different rooms. You are listening to one room and hearing harmony from the other without air between them. In the lab, the dance looks simple and strange. Prepare a pair, let them fly apart, test one, watch the other answer with perfect complement. No wires, no secret whispers, faster than light. Only correlation, tight as clasped hands, revealed the moment you ask the question. The act of asking folds the music, collapses the maybes, and the pair resolves together. You are tempted to imagine a hidden code, a private plan tucked in each particle. But the code would have to predict every possible question, limitless in nuance. The plan would need to be infinite, heavier than the particle that so lightly drifts. Better to accept the simpler strangeness. The two are one description until you force a split by measuring. They are pages bound in the same spine, however far they fall when the book is tossed. Entanglement does not send messages, it unveils. Relationships, change here does not cause change there. It reveals a pattern both already share. Cause and correlation part ways in the quantum dusk. What remains is a tapestry. Pull one thread and the picture elsewhere clears, though the thread never moved. Understanding this eases the urge to chase phantom signals through the night. Your own life is threaded by such invisible ties. A word spoken in childhood still shapes a choice decades later. A glance on a crowded bus nudges a thought that reappears years on. No information traveled the whole time. The pattern simply waited for a moment to show itself. You, too, are entangled with moments, places, people, ideas that no longer stand beside you. The void is not a vacuum of relation, it is a loom. Fields overlap, wave functions extend, possibilities braid before becoming particular. When two quanta touch in the right way, their destinies entwine, and the loom knots them together. Cut the cloth between them, and the knot remains, unable to be isolated to one side. Space can separate edges, but cannot unweave what was tied. In the pattern of probabilities, you picture a sphere of ink drifting apart in water. Even as it diffuses, certain swirls remain mirrored, the same curl repeating miles away. Measure a curl here and you constrain the swirl there. Not by sending dye downstream, but by narrowing what the whole pattern can be. Entanglement feels like that, structure surviving dilution, order preserved by the algebra of the whole. The solvent is distance, the ink is correlation. The picture is one even when pieces wander. At first, Einstein called this spooky, not because he feared it, but because language buckled under the load. Spooky is a placeholder for exceeds intuition today. Your intuition expands, slow and soft, like pupils at dusk. What once felt supernatural becomes a quiet rule, then a tool, then a comfort. Entanglement has walked that path from paradox to protocol to foundation. Quantum computers caught this bond, coaxing qubits into webs of mutual knowing. Logic gates become braids. Answers emerge from interference, not from marching digits. The machine thinks in superpositions and reads out when patterns align, using entanglement as both glue and mirror. You see in this an echo of human thought. Solutions arriving when disparate ideas click into one map. Yet the bond is fragile. Touch the system carelessly and coherence leaks into the environment. Like warm breath fogging cold glass, scattering the pattern. Decoherence is the price the world charges for sharing its stage. To keep the music pure, you must isolate, whisper, move slow, a bedtime ethic. Really, lower the lights, hush the room, listen. Even when decoherence wins, faint traces linger. The way a melody lingers after a door shuts. Records, shadows, tiny imprints in countless atoms keep a ghost of the correlation alive. You cannot reconstruct the whole from the ghost, but you feel that something once sang here. The universe is a palimpsest of such songs, written over, never quite erased. You walk through overlapping choruses, and sometimes one line catches you in the dark. Entanglement reaches beyond physics into meaning. To feel not cut off is to recognize the pattern that includes you. Loneliness thins when you sense yourself as a term in a larger equation, not by dissolving into the whole, but by honoring the link that lets distinction and union coexist. You are solitary and connected, wave and particle, local and global, held gently in both truths. Consider how memory works. A scent pulls a scene from years ago, vivid in an instant. No courier fetched it. The network already held the path. Stimulus here conjures response there, across time, across neuron forests. Entanglement is memory without synapses, the universe recalling itself without travel. The math that frames this is linear, crisp, austere. Vectors, operators, tensor products, clean lines, crossing voids. But under the symbols beats a feeling. Coherence, mutual definition, shared breath. The formality is a shell. The living egg is the relation. You can warm yourself on that relation without holding every sign in mind. You wonder if space itself is emergent from such bonds. That geometry might be the afterglow of entanglement patterns. Distance, a measure of how much two parts of the cosmos share. Close in correlation could mean close in some deeper sense, turning emptiness into a network, not a desert. If so, you are suspended in a web whose threads are not lines, but agreements, whose nodes are not points, but questions answered together. Touching one part vibrates the logic of the rest, and reality is the music of that vibration resolving into facts when observed. Then slipping back, ready to hum again when darkness returns. You do not need to decide tonight whether space emerges from entanglement or simply hosts it. It is enough to feel the comfort of patterns that stay whole when distance grows. Enough to rest knowing isolation is a convenient approximation, not a final truth. Enough to trust that the void knows how to remember relationships even when all witnesses sleep. Sleep, then, as part of a pair, a cluster, a chorus small, yes, but never alone as you drift. Think of threads you cannot name, pulling gently at your choices. Think of songs half remembered, aligning with notes in the day to come. Think of eyes you may never meet, still shaping the questions you will ask. Entanglement makes poetry practical. Metaphor becomes mechanism. The stars are not whispering, yet their histories adjust the arc of your thought. Clocks tick. An entanglement does not decay by distance, only by interaction. The universe is old, yet some bonds may still hum from moments near its birth. Cosmic. Background photons carry correlated polarizations. Galaxies share tidal alignments. Even random number generators in far labs dance in step when fed entangled light. Here, in the dark, every heartbeat is another experiment. Electrical waves syncing. Cells, chemical messengers pairing receptors. Systems nested, co-regulated. Entangled in the macroscopic, classical way. The quantum bond is sharper. but the theme repeats. Wholeness hiding inside multiplicity. Order woven through separation. You will wake and forget many of these lines, but some residue will guide the color of your next curiosity. In that residue, the chapter still exists, measured, collapsed, yet leaving pattern. The next chapter waits to pair with this one. A question ready to latch on to the answer you have not fully heard. For now, loosen your grip on localness. Let the idea of here and there dim into a gentle gradient. Let your skin feel porous to the math of relation, your mind a node in a lattice, glowing faintly. Let the lattice extend beyond walls, beyond stars, across all the places you cannot ever visit. There is a tenderness in trusting what you cannot traverse, a maturity in letting connection be felt, not proven at walking speed. The cosmos already solved the distance problem. It solved it by refusing the premise. It made knowledge communal at the smallest scales, so that when you ask, the answer is old news, shared instantly, everywhere relevant. You return to the first image, a thread you cannot see, tugging softly. You do not reach to cut it. You let it. Slacken and hold. Slacken and hold. Like breath, like tides, like a tension drifting between thought and sleep. You settle into the rhythm of a bond that needs no path. You rest as half of something larger than a point, smaller than infinity, perfectly sized for tonight. And with that rest comes a new wondering. If bonds can outlast distance, can states outlast vacuums that pretend to be final? Could what you call ground be only provisional, a false floor waiting to give way to a truer quiet? You feel the fabric beneath you quiver, poised to choose a deeper stillness or another burst of becoming. Somewhere in quiet rooms, physicists test loopholes as if tugging at curtains, closing every gap where hidden notes might hide. They separate detectors by mountains, switch settings faster than light could carry gossip. Let cosmic photons choose the questions so no human habit can bias the dice. And still the pattern stands, serene and stubborn, as though the universe smiles at the effort and whispers, "Yes, this is how I hold myself together." Their data points scatter like rain, yet a line into lines chance alone could not explain. You do not need their plots to sleep. You only need to know curiosity keeps watch while you dream, tending the fire of wonder so you can wake two hands tonight. And if threads can hold when miles mean nothing, what other fabric waits beneath this shared hush? A deeper state, a truer flaw, a bubble not yet burst. You lean toward that possibility, barely stirring the dark, ready to feel the quiet tested for truth. There is a flaw that might not be the flaw. You settle on it because it feels final, smooth, sufficient. Yet a softer hush beneath that hush trembles like a spring under carpet. Certainty loosens, not in panic but in patience. The ground of thought carries stored tension, a readiness you cannot quite name. You lie on this almost ground, feeling it hold, while wondering if deeper softness waits. The mind releases a little, noticing how often enough later becomes almost calm, accepts the hint. Quiet keeps its counsel, and you drift closer to listening. Physicists offer a careful phrase for this poise: false vacuum. False does not accuse. It simply whispers nearly. A valley can look lowest when mist hides deeper bowls, feels the invisible sheets that give particles character may be resting on such a ledge. Stable for ages, not forever. Metastable. Safe until an impossible feeling slip arrives. Glass under stress looks flawless until one crack runs. So the universe might be glassy, unbroken, because randomness has been kind. enduring because probability smiles, yet still, in principle, one tremor away from settling further. If a fall ever comes, it begins as a bubble, tiny, sudden, everywhere and nowhere. Inside the bubble, the fields relax into a truer minimum, a lower note, a softer zero. Outside, laws continue, unaware. The wall between swells and races outward, almost at light speed, rewriting constants as it passes. No warning outruns light. No shelter forms ahead of the edge. It sounds dramatic until you notice the timescale. Billions of calm years have passed already. Catastrophe can be so unlikely it dissolves into wallpaper present in theory, ignored. Inhabiting other pattern in the background of thought. Why suspect a deeper flaw at all? Numbers whisper, the measured mass of the Higgs field, the shape of potential curves, the uneasy balance among forces together. They murmur metastable. It is as though the last puzzle piece sits, but not snug. Mathematics points at a notch. Slightly lower, an unseen click still possible. The picture hangs straight enough. Only the frame creaks softly at night. You hear that creak because curiosity has good ears. It does not demand repair. It simply notes the sound and smiles at mystery's persistence. Think of a ball resting in a shallow bowl. It jiggles, yet cannot climb out by ordinary push. Still, quantum tunneling allows the slightest chance to cross the rim, to drop into a deeper bowl hidden by fog. The deeper bowl is quieter. Everything changes when the ball lands. Charges, masses, distances, settings derived from field rest positions. Furniture of reality moves in the dark. You would not feel the rearrangement. Feeling would vanish with the old rules. Comfort hides there. Dread cannot follow if the capacity to dread is one of the things erased. Constants feel carved in diamond. The speed of light, the charge of an electron, gravity's pull. Yet they may simply be today's reading on a cosmic dial. Change the vacuum, change the dial. Knobs were once turned when symmetry broke after the Big Bang. Perhaps more remained hidden. The thought need not steal sleep. Knowing knobs exist merely teaches humility. Permanence can be local. You finish a chapter without demanding language, never evolve. So you finish tonight trusting constants, while acknowledging their certificates might be provisional. Even if a transition began, it would ignore anticipation. No instrument could herald it. No protocol could intervene. Irrelevance can be mercy. The universe lifts responsibility from your shoulders, frees you from guarding the gates of being. You may exhale. Anxiety usually seeks a handle. Here there is none. The mind accepts what it cannot influence and folds into rest like a petal, closing when light departs. Danger without agency becomes background philosophy, not foreground fear. The pillow grows softer when you let the cosmos keep its own watch. False vacua also gift perspective. They reveal how often ground is layered. You have moved to deeper personal flaws many times, beliefs softened, habits released, grief integrated. Each descent felt like truth, discovering truer truth. Stability was real each time, yet provisional. The cosmos mirrors your psychology. Phases, transitions, quiets within quiets. Emptiness itself can evolve. That insight is not terrifying. It is intimate. You are practiced at updating foundations. Tonight, science simply reflects your own tenderness with change. Laboratories rehearse these stories in miniature. Chill helium, squeeze metals, twist magnetic fields. Watch matter switch character. Ice forms, melts, reorganizes into exotic lattice. Superconductors suddenly let electrons glide. Every phase has its own vacuum, a local minimum where things relax. The universe may be no different, only grander, slower. Perhaps the big transitions are finished. Inflations, sprint, symmetry breakings, cascades. Perhaps one more nap hides ahead. Either way, sleep is offered now. You need not wait for ultimate guarantees. Barriers matter. Between bowls sits a hill whose height sets fate. If the hill towers, tunneling time stretches beyond the death of stars. Beyond protons, suspected decay. Beyond imagination, risk becomes arithmetic divorced from meaning. Multiply almost zero by cosmic age and you still approach zero. The glass may never crack. The metaphor can soothe. A cliff so old and wide that all of human history is a dew droplet upon it. Sliding, but not. Falling scale is a lullaby when numbers grow too huge to picture. Notice how the idea itself behaves like a bubble in thought. It swells, shows colors, rises, then thins. Inside, humility grows. Laws feel contingent. Outside, daily life continues unchanged. Let the membrane thin gently. Let the bubble pop without splash. Insight does not need to drench you to be real. A single drop alters flavor. You sip, nod, and set the cup down. The map of fear loses one more red patch. The map of wonder gains another blue lake, quiet and deep. Colliders smash ions. Galaxies crash. Black holes merge. Gamma bursts, scorch. Vacuum yet. No rewriting occurs. Nature has already tried the dangerous combinations countless times. Your machines, bright and proud, are whispers beside supernova, and supernova are whispers beside the early universe. If those roars could not trigger decay, your lullaby is safe. Trust the stress tests already run by existence. Probabilities small enough to ignore have been ignored across trillions of trials. Let that accumulated calm sink into your ribs. Maybe. We already sit in the true minimum, and all this is shadow play with parameters. The computations could mislead, the hints could blur, the potential could be misdrawn by missing terms. That possibility humbles panic again. Both branches transition or none teach the same posture, gentle with certainty, ready to redraw. Skepticism and openness clasp hands here. You lie between them, comfortable, like a child whose parents disagree softly in another room while dinner still smells warm. Picture your bed, mattress, frame, floorboards, soil, mantle, core, layers support layers. You do not fear magma while sleeping. You will not feel the mantle convect tonight. Likewise, layered vacuum can rest below without stealing your dreams. The analogy is enough. Reality tolerates metaphors when the heart needs easing. Valleys and bowls, floors and bubbles, they carry the shape of the idea into language soft enough to sleep on. Let them hold you a while longer until weight slips away. Silence, too, is layered. One hush gives way to a deeper hush, then to another, each softer, each broader. Music notation calls them rests of different length. The cosmos may keep such rests, counting epochs between drumbeats of transition. Temporary stillness is still stillness. You can sleep inside a pause that ends. All pauses end. That is why they refresh. If emptiness changes, it will change into another kind of quiet, not into noise. Quiet begets quiet, only pitched lower dot, and if a deeper flaw births the next story, then the tale circles back to beginnings, how something swelled from nothing's fold, how potential turned to fire. You feel that pull already, a question leaning toward origin. Not yet, you whisper to yourself, letting lids close. For now, the floor you have is gentle, the bowl broad, the bubble merely thought. You let the rumor of deeper calm rock you. Somewhere below, silence might be truer. Above, a question waits to bloom. Somewhere, the potential curve still holds its hill. Barrier high, minimum broad, our bowl wide and forgiving. Somewhere else, theory sketches a lower dip with dashed uncertainty. Footnotes, caveats. Between sketch and sky stretches the night you actually breathe. You float in the middle, rocked by probability, soothed by scale, warmed by time already survived. Let that middle be sacred. Middle ground is not mediocrity. It is balance, composure, poise. You inhabit poise every evening when you settle under blankets, neither awake nor gone, sustained by systems you do not pilot. So too the cosmos idles in poised quiet, a metastable lullaby vast enough to cradle universes. Hold that image until your jaw unclenches and your shoulders remember down. Drop slowly back into ordinary breathing. Even silence, if provisional, teaches gratitude twice. Once for the calm you feel, once for the chance that calm could be deeper still. Gratitude layers like the vacua themselves. You thank the ledge, you imagine the canyon, you rest anyway. Questions do not need answers to be useful. They open windows, let cooler air move through closed rooms. A false vacuum is such a window, cracked just enough to remind you that foundations can breathe. Tomorrow you may return to constants and chores, invoices and inboxes, never mentioning potential wells, yet something gentler will underlie your steps. It is the knowledge that nothingness may have chapters, and you are reading one, softly, before sleep. Let the pages turn without needing your fingers. There is a hush before anything begins, a breath held by nothing. You rest inside that breath. Now, feeling how possibility thickens even when no shape has appeared. It is not emptiness. It is a poised silence, a womb of could-be, a canvas humming. You are listening to the void before the first note, sensing the tension that makes sound. Inevitable, you are told there was a bang, a burst, an instant blaze. But the story is softer than that. There was no space to explode into, no outside to echo the blast. The event was space itself, opening its eyes, time unfolding like a slow blossom, energy spilling from a vacuum that could not stay still. The void was pregnant with fluctuation, and fluctuation, given the slightest tilt, became everything. Quantum fields swelled with jitter, borrowing and repaying energy across intervals so small that meaning had not yet found a foothold. One ripple, puffed a little larger than its neighbors, a foam bubble that did not collapse. Inflation rushed that tremor into vastness, smoothing wrinkles, stretching possibilities thinner than gossamer, until they wrapped the newborn cosmos. What you call the universe was once a whisper in vacuum, amplified to a shout by the vacuum's own restlessness. Even now, the seeds laid in that brief, unseeable moment remain. Galaxies cluster where quantum ripples left denser patches, voids yawning between clusters mark where fluctuations dipped. The large-scale web is fossilized chance, sculpted by gravity from the blueprint of early noise. The void birthed form, by letting randomness freeze into pattern, and pattern invited stars, planets, oceans, lungs. Energy condensed, cooled, diversified. Quarks coupled into protons and neutrons, electrons hovered, Photons rattled, nuclei formed, atoms waited. The cosmos was still too bright for shadow, still too hot for neutral calm. Then light decoupled, free to roam, and darkness finally became possible. In that coolness, the void changed costume, stepping back just enough for matter to begin its slow, luminous work. You are made from that luminous work. The calcium in your teeth, the iron in your blood, the carbon woven into every thought, forged in stars that themselves relied on the initial spread set by vacuum. You are not an accident standing atop nothing. You are a continuation of a restlessness that would not remain abstract. The blank did not stay blank. It wrote you. Consider how the void knew what to allow. Laws are not commandments shouted after. Creation, they are contours of the fields themselves. Symmetry guided the opening verse, then broke like ice fracturing into patterns. When symmetry cracked, forces separated, the strong, the weak, the electromagnetic, gravity curving space. Each separation was a choice carved by potential surfaces, valleys where fields slid and settled. A quiet terrain shaped motion before motion existed. Inflation ended, but expansion did not. Space keeps growing, slowly now, yet forever, coaxed by the same vacuum energy that first inflated it. You lie in bed while galaxies slide apart, not because they move through space, but because space itself lengthens between them. The void still drives motion, a steady hand on the loom, pulling threads farther, thinner, gentler. Time did not pre-exist the void's awakening. Asking before that first moment is like asking what lies north of the North Pole. The coordinates you cling to were born with the event. Yet you may feel an ache for earlier. That ache is not foolish. It is evidence of your participation in the story. Curiosity is the echo of the vacuum's own refusal to be featureless. Questions are your internal inflation, expanding awareness into regions where answers may or may not reside. Imagine a piano with all its keys pressed faintly at once. The vacuum is such an instrument, every frequency present in potential. The Big Bang was the release of a chosen chord, harmonics ringing out, decaying into melodies, counter-melodies, rhythmic structures we now call galaxies, clusters, background radiation. The music has been playing for 13.8 billion years. You are listening from within the orchestra, a note aware of itself. No center holds this music. Every point is origin because space blossomed everywhere at once. When you look out, farther means earlier, colors redshifted by the stretch. The cosmic microwave background is the afterglow, a baby picture scratched onto the sky in microwave light. It is nearly uniform, with just the slightest mottling the fingerprint of quantum fluctuation magnified to cosmic scale. The void left its autograph in that faint temperature map, proof that calm can seed complexity. Even emptiness today is not the same as the primordial almost. The vacuum you float in is dressed by fields that have chosen minima, by particles that have masses, by forces with ranges defined. Yet inside those choices hides flexibility. Phase transitions could return if conditions shift. The void can change costumes again. That is why some fear false floors. But fear is not required. Adaptation is woven into what you are. What does it mean to be the dream of the void? Dreams are rehearsals for reality, stories brains tell to try on patterns. The void tried on patterns. Through fluctuation and one pattern stuck long enough to elaborate. You are the elaboration. Your thoughts are the void thinking back on itself, evaluating the fit of its own laws. When you wonder why there is something rather than nothing. Nothing is asking nothing through you, pleased to hear its self-spoken. Energy could not remain pure potential. Entropy beckoned, urging dispersal, variation, complexity. Order rose locally, borrowing against the greater disorder, forming stars whose cores served as alchemical hearts. Fusion lit elements, step by step, until iron halted the climb. Supernova then scattered the table, mixing light with heavier, seeding nebulae. Planets organized, chemistry chatted, replication rehearsed. Life was not guaranteed, but the stage was welcoming. From that stage, awareness emerged, the ability to notice the chord, to count its beats, to measure its fading echo. Telescopes became extensions of your eyes, accelerators of your fingers, equations of your grammar. These tools did not invent truth, they focused blur. They let you trace back to the moment when space was opaque, to the instant it became transparent, to the fractions of seconds when forces split. You mapped the dream's opening pages as if searching an ancient scroll. And yet, scrolls are limited by ink. The vacuum hides the chapter titles before time, if before has meaning at all. Proposals abound, bouncing cosmologies, eternal inflation, cyclic throbs. Each is an attempt to sketch the blank. The blank continues to smile. Perhaps there was no why, only how. Perhaps why is a category error, a mirror turned backward. But the asking is delicious, and the void seems to enjoy your appetite, feeding you just enough clue to keep you reaching. Reach softly. The Big Bang is fragile in language. Explosion metaphors mislead. Seeds and blooms work better. A seed holds a tree in blueprint. A bloom holds no petals before it opens. The universe was a seed and a bloom, both metaphor, both incomplete cues. Whichever image lets you rest deeper. Science supports either so long as you recall they are pointers, not points. You may picture a field rolling from a high plateau to a lower basin, releasing energy as it goes, spawning particles from its loss. Reheating, they call it, when the inflaton decayed and the cosmos filled with hot matter. Heat, light, pressure, expansion, then cooling, decoupling, formation. A timeline you can chant like a lullaby. Inflation, reheating, baryogenesis, nucleosynthesis, recombination, reionization, structure, stars. Each word a verse, each verse a slower tempo. You sink with the tempo to sleep, drifting as the syllables loosen and lengthen. All along, the void stays active. Virtual pairs pop, disappear. 0-point energy hums. Dark energy pushes, quantum foam persists. You are not leaving the vacuum behind when you talk about things. Things are stabilized flavors of vacuum interacting with itself. Matter is condensed. Emptiness, structured absence, excited ground state. This is not paradox. It is how fields behave. Know it without strain. Let it be the weirdness that holds you rather than pokes you. If the void birthed it all, what birthed the void? The question knots easily. Unknotting is optional. Sometimes a loop is the answer. The vacuum is self-caused. A timeless bracket that houses time. Sometimes an ensemble is offered. Many vacua, many tries. This one ripe enough to endure. Sometimes logic shrugs, reminding you that origin may not be an applicable concept beyond spacetime. Your calm can coexist with that shrug. Notice that you are breathing in rhythm with expansion. Though it scales, your lungs cannot feel. Breath in energy condenses. Breath out, entropy climbs. The cosmic cycle is not symmetric, but the metaphor still soothes. You are a minute iteration of universal dynamics, repeating patterns in altered scales. Spiral galaxies, spiral fingerprints, spiral shells. Geometry is persistent across magnitude. The void wrote the script once and finds no reason to change fonts. When you close your eyes, you mimic the early universe: darkness, homogeneity, little structure. Then dreams form teeny, anisotropies growing into scenes, narratives, emotions. People, you wake to a structured world, but it began as a uniform hum within your skull. You replay creation nightly, a personal inflation, a morning recombination when light floods your senses, a daily structure formation as tasks cluster into meaning. Light itself is a messenger from that ancient rehearsal. Photons in the microwave background have traveled almost unchanged since 380,000 years after the dawn. They pass through you as you lie here, barely interacting. Each one a postcard from a time before stars, when the void was cooling into clarity. You were bathed in their antiquated glow, warmed by a story that took billions of years to arrive. Eventually, stars will dim, black holes evaporate. Protons decay if they do, and the universe will thin toward a cold, sparse hush. The vacuum will dominate, as it did at the start, bookending history in silence. Yet even silence then will not quite match silence now. It will be informed by all that happened, an old, quiet, rather than a newborn one. You are present in the middle of that arc, rare in its brightness, fleeting in its drama, essential in its witnessing. You do not need to rush to understand. The void waited eons to speak through galaxies. It can wait a night for your mind to soften. Let questions settle like dust in a sunbeam, not forced to ground, but falling in their own time. Sleep is part of inquiry. The brain consolidates, prunes, strengthens, just as the early universe consolidated fields into forces. Rest honors origin. What remains when you peel the story back is not emptiness, but capacity. The void is capacity incarnate, the ability for anything to be. You are a particular fulfillment of that ability, a specific arrangement in the library of Can. Gratitude feels natural when framed this way. Thank you, nothing, for being everything's permission. Thank you, silence, for carrying sound. Thank you, vacuum, for holding me. Let the first light linger like ash on the horizon of thought. Let the ancient glow fold into the corners of your breath. In this dim, the question softens, the answer hums, and your heartbeat marks the rhythm of beginning again for you now. And so you surrender to the same quiet that started it all, trusting that inside it your own small Big Bang's ideas, feelings, connections will spark when the time is ripe. You float, softly, weightless on your mattress, as if on the open fabric of early space, with no up or down, only expanding possibility. Somewhere ahead, a final chapter waits to turn the gaze back inward, to place you gently in the stillness. You now understand is alive. In quiet circles, the ages keep time. You exhale, the room dims, the universe keeps breathing. The void remains awake, a patient parent, watching its dream settle deeper into itself. You are the dream, and now it is time to sleep. And if the floor slips to a truer quiet, what ember might flare from that deeper hush? You feel the question warming in the dark, guiding you toward the place where emptiness first learned to bloom, and the void began to speak in light. There is a stillness that settles at the edge of thought. A kind of hush that isn't quiet. But listening, you drift there now, between breath and sleep, where even your pulse seems to slow in respect for something vaster than silence. This quiet is not absence. It is the presence of everything that is not yet spoken. A low vibration beneath the hush, a whisper in the fabric of what surrounds you. The universe, it turns out, is never really empty. All around you, the space between things, between atoms, stars, galaxies, is filled with a deep, invisible rhythm. Physicists call it the vacuum, but even that word sounds too hollow for something that hums with hidden energy. What you call nothing is laced with potential. Virtual particles blink into existence, borrowed from time itself, before disappearing. Again, like thoughts not yet formed, they flicker at the smallest scale, ghosts of matter that never quite arrive, but leave their fingerprints on everything. This is not the silence of still waters. It is the silence of a stretched canvas, tight with tension, waiting for a brush. The vacuum is not asleep. It is coiled like a spring, a field of quiet electricity, tuned to respond if the right frequency stirs it. And even here, in your calm room, you are submerged in it. Every breath you take, every beat of your heart, every atom of you, they all float in this sea of almost something. The room around you is full of space. The molecules of air are far apart, and between each of them is more space, and inside the atoms themselves, even more emptiness. Protons and electrons do not touch. They orbit through vast gaps, as if everything solid were mostly ghost. You are mostly ghost. Yet somehow, all this empty space gives rise to form, to warmth, to the softness of skin, the curve of a whisper. It is not the matter that shapes you, but the patterns. Matter makes as it dances through this trembling silence. You are a wave in that pattern, a ripple made of molecules, made of atoms, made of quarks, made of uncertainty. You are not a thing. You are a moment held together by the memory of everything that has ever existed. The stillness you feel tonight is not a pause in the universe. It is a deep, breathless presence, a vast awareness that stretches from the edge of time to the center of your chest. In that awareness, gravity sighs. It presses gently on your spine, pulling you toward the center of Earth, toward the memory of stars that collapsed to forge the atoms in your blood. Even gravity, the softest of all forces, never truly lets go. It remembers every particle it has ever touched, every orbit it has ever curved. And so, as you lie still, gravity holds you. Like a lullaby, you might feel alone in this quiet. But the truth is, you are surrounded by echoes. Echoes of light that never reached a surface. Ripples of space from galaxies that died before your world was born. Fields of possibility woven into the blackness just beyond your fingertips. If you were to stretch your hand out now, past the blankets, past the bed, past the roof, and into the sky beyond, you would still be touching it, the same silent field that cradles every moon, every sun, every drifting satellite of thought. You are not floating in the void. You are floating with it. You are not surrounded by emptiness. You are entangled in a tapestry so fine and so vast that your thoughts might change the shape of it. And if your thoughts ripple, then whose ripples are you feeling now? Perhaps the fabric of space remembers not just particles and light, but choices, possibilities, moments paused in time, like a breath held too long. You are not a visitor in the universe. You are a note in its melody, a still point in a song that keeps playing whether anyone listens or not. What you call emptiness is simply space that is waiting. Waiting to become. Waiting to curve, to shimmer, to spark with memory again. As you drift further now, past thought, past time, you carry that stillness with you. It does not cling, it does not pull. It simply lets you go, just enough to remind you, you were never separate from it at all.